What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is the Blacklist Season 8, Episode 21, Nachalo? 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 I don't know. But yeah, so finally getting a lot of answers about the truth of what happened in Elizabeth slash Masha's past, and it's refreshing, to finally get some truths. We've gotten a lot of half truths over the years. We've gotten a lot of, oh, this is what really happened, and then we find out later this isn't actually what happened. So very interesting to finally get the full truth about a lot of what led Masha and Red to where they are now. Of course, still lacking the one crucial piece of information, who is Raymond Reddington, which I guess we might get that answer in the season finale. I am a little confused about how Liz was getting all this information. Um, are we gonna get an explanation for that, or is this just like an artistic way of Reddington telling her the story, and this is how she's experiencing it? Is all of just these flashbacks and stuff, and these people that are dead talking to her? I don't know. I couldn't tell if it was an artistic choice or if there's something like some sort of technology that Reddington is using to like beam this information into her head, or I thought honestly it was going to be like hypnotherapy or something, and they hypnotized her and that's how she was getting all the information. But some good answers to come out of this. First of all, we do find out that the woman who was killed at the beginning of the season was not actually Katerina Rostova, which, from Liz's point of view, it doesn't change much. She's still, a lot of her decisions didn't make a lot of sense. Still felt like she was too easily manipulated, and a lot of what she did just was not right based on what she knew beforehand. But it does at least give me some answers about why Katerina Rostova was doing all of this. Because I did have the thought that Reddington was supposed to be helping her through all of this. The fact that she was willing to go after her father, even though supposedly her father just wanted her dead because she turned on KGB and all that, it still felt very weird that it didn't feel like there was any sort of connection there. And it's nice to know that that wasn't actually Katerina Rostova. So that answer for me, it clears up a lot of the issues that I had with her character. Why she was willing to use Liz in all of this, because she's not actually her mother. So she's not a terrible mother. She is just somebody who was pretending to be her mother and using her and using that fake connection to basically get what she wanted, which is essentially her life back and her freedom and the ability to go live her own life. And from her point of view, I can kind of understand that, because she had lived so long pretending to be Katerina. She had lost her husband in the process of pretending to kill Katerina, so it makes sense why she would want revenge on all of these people that did put her in this position and caused her to essentially lose her whole life. It really does give... It's weird that they give her character a lot more meaning and a lot more, I guess, backstory after she's already dead. I feel like this is one of those stories that if I go back and watch now, I really hope that it's one of those, second time you watch through, it makes a lot more sense. You really start to feel for her because you see everything she's doing is essentially not just because she wants to live, it's because she wants to stop being Katerina. She wants to expose where she actually is and go back to being Tatiana again and be able to live her life again. And that for me is a lot better of a motive than just, I just want to live. So I'm glad that they gave her that reasoning, and I'm glad, again, getting a lot of these answers, we really get to know who Katerina and Ilya were and all of this. We even got to know a little bit more about the original Raymond Reddington. Because we haven't really seen much about him. We've just gotten some stories from people, secondhand stories explaining who he was and all of this. But to actually get to see him and get to see all the stuff that he did, I thought that was a really nice moment. Because honestly, even he's been kind of a mystery all these years. So yeah, I really liked a lot of this episode. I will say the one big problem I have is, and I know that they had to do this to set up for kind of a big climax and make things exciting for a minute, But the fact that Reddington didn't find out she had a chip tracking him the whole way, because first of all, I mean, surely he had to suspect something was up with her. You know, after what happened with Godwin in the last episode, I thought he was going to be onto her. I thought maybe he had an idea of what she was trying to do. And then especially because Cooper said he was trying to contact anybody and everybody. You know, I feel like somebody would have reached out to him. You know, they said they were even trying to call Dembe, so why didn't Dembe pick up the phone and say, hey, what's up? And then find out, oh, she has a tracking chip on you. She slept for like 6 hours. You know, when they were in the car and he said, now's not the time for Cooper, that made sense because they were about to take her to this, you know, secret place. But when they got on the plane and she fell asleep, I feel like at some point they could have been like, all right, well, let's see what Cooper wanted, and taken the message and been like, oh, yes, you know, she has a tracking chip. I honestly thought that was going to be part of the plan, was to lure him to the nest to kill him or something, but nope. Apparently he had no clue that Liz had the tracking chip and she was leading Townsend right to their location, because it seemed to come as a surprise for him. He wasn't ready for their attack. And in my opinion, that, again, you make Reddington look like a bit of an idiot. You know, because it feels like he should have been more aware. He should have been more willing to listen to what Cooper had to say. And somebody should have reached out to him, because they said they were trying to contact everybody in his circle. So, yeah, I don't know. Seemed like a little bit of a plot hole just to allow for essentially Townsend to get the drop on him and put them in that dangerous situation for a second. But with that being said, the closing scene was badass as hell. You know, essentially him talking about what the nest was and then burning them all alive. It was a pretty badass way to take them out. So, and on top of that, even though it's kind of a cliche, the F-bomb being cut off by a literal explosion, it's still kind of fun whenever that happens. So, but yeah, we've only got one episode left. I don't know how this is all going to come to an end, because again, this really does feel like it could be ramping up to the series finale, but I know that's not what the case is. So I really don't know what to expect. I don't know whether they're going to build up for next season. I don't know if they're going to set up something else to kind of be the new end game, or if we're going to find out that Reddington, you know, he's not quite the good guy we thought in all of this. Like, he still is a better person than somebody like Townsend, but there's still a lot about him that he can't, you know, he has to stay on the run. I don't know. It's a lot still left up in the air, but I'm looking forward to it. So, on to the final episode of the season 8. Hope is a good one. I'll see you there. And finally, episode 22, Konets. This is going to take some processing for me to really figure out how I feel about all of this. First of all, unfortunately, the spoiler that I talked about the last review that I did, that somebody gave away for me, is that Liz does not come back for season 9. So, as they're talking about Liz killing Red and taking over his spot and doing all this stuff, I'm thinking, so it's not gonna happen. I figured either she was going to die or she was going to die. I will say the choice to kill her off, not really sure. And whenever I come back to the show, eventually I'll see what they decide to do for the final 2 seasons, what exactly the end game is and all of it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about it, because there's still some mysteries left. Admittedly, the final scene, it was hard to really tell what the whole, I don't know. I'd had suspicions since the beginning of this episode that maybe they're being very cryptic. You know, Red was being very cryptic whenever he was talking to Liz about who he is and where her mother is and all this stuff. And I will admit, it's been a thought. I don't remember when this thought first occurred to me, but there was a thought in my mind at some point, because I'm thinking about all the people we've gone through about who Raymond Reddington could really be. I remember there was a thought in my mind, like, what, is it her mom? Did she have, like, gender change and, you know, because, yeah, this clearly would be a total overhaul of who she was if this is actually her. And I'm not sure if that final scene was trying to confirm that for us, because there were a lot of moments where it shows Katarina doing one thing and then it shows Red doing it with Liz. So I don't know. I don't know if that's what they're trying to imply there, but admittedly it is weird that seemingly Liz dies with no answers. She doesn't get, well, not no answers, but she doesn't get that answer of who Raymond Reddington really was and where her mom was in all of this. So even if that is the case, even if that is what they're implying, is that Katarina had all of this construction done and turned herself into this Raymond Reddington, it still feels weird that they would kill Liz off before she could figure all that out. Not only that, but also the fact that a lot of what Reddington's been doing since season 1 is trying to keep her safe, and season 8 that just fails. Like that, it seems like a weird choice, and it feels like a lot of what he's been doing up until this point has all been for naught. That she just dies anyway. And even her and Wrestler, the budding romance that they were building up, I wasn't a fan of it. I didn't think it felt right, but at the same time, it feels weird that you're building this up and you don't actually give them a chance to be together. So I don't know. It's definitely, it's a choice. They seem to be sticking with it. It didn't end with her like seemingly dead and then we don't really see the body. It seems to end with her dying. Like she closes her eyes, stops breathing. I highly doubt where the bullet hit. Like it was right dead center, so very good chance it damaged something. I don't know. It seems like an odd choice. It seems like a strange decision from a storytelling point of view, knowing that we have 2 more seasons after this. Because again, the show felt like it wasn't just Liz, it wasn't just Reddington, it was Reddington and Liz. So now that one of your main characters is gone and dead, what are you going to do from here? What story are you going to tell now that is going to keep cohesive to the rest of the plot? Because I don't know. It seems like an odd choice. And honestly, even with Reddington, I don't really know what's going to happen with him next. Because he says he's sick. He wanted Liz to kill him so he could at least die with a purpose and give her reins to his whole kingdom. But now that didn't happen, so is he not going to die from the disease anymore? Like, is it going to... I mean, Dembe did say, well, it's not getting worse, it's getting better. So maybe they'll just say, oh yeah, it did go away, but it's going to come back again in the end. I don't know. It seems very odd. And again, we still don't really know what that whole storytelling thing was. And maybe somebody... Obviously, if there's a spoiler involved, don't tell me, because I don't want to know spoilers. I'm already pissed that I got spoiled about Liz not coming back for next season. But the whole thing where Liz was learning the story in the last episode, was that just an artistic thing, or is there actually an explanation for that in the future? Because they really did not make it clear in the moment and still didn't really get answers. She didn't say, oh yeah, that story you were telling me, when we were down in the nest. Like, she didn't say any of that. She just goes down there, gets all this information, and then they start getting shot at. And it seemed like it all happened like that. And you don't get that much information out in half a second. So clearly there was something going on there. And I don't know what it was, and I don't know if I'm supposed to know what it was by now, but all in all, it could be a very messy end of the season, depending on where they decide to take it. I don't know. I really don't know how I feel about it yet. It's gonna be difficult not to continue watching, because I am, admittedly, they still do have me gripped. They still do have me wanting to know more and wanting to find out, okay, well, where does the story go now? But I do feel like I need to take a break, because there have been several moments of frustration this season. Thankfully, in this episode, it did seem like Liz finally wised up a little bit and stopped being all, oh, I'm so much better than you, and blah, 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 blah. But, yeah, I don't know. I really do feel like this finale will either be really good or really bad, depending on where it goes from here. How does the whole show wrap up? Because it felt like the point of the show Was Liz trying to get answers about who Reddington was, and Reddington trying to do whatever it is. We found out in this or in the last episode, basically build up all this information, blackmail all of these people, have all of this stuff that they could use against all these powerful people to keep her safe. And none of that worked, So the whole point of the Blacklist basically went away now that she's dead. So how can you carry on for 2 more episodes? And that's kind of where I'm not really sure how to feel about it. Not and what really sucks about it too is because Liz has been so insufferable for the last season and a half ish. I really didn't feel the emotion as strongly as I think I would have if this had happened like a few seasons ago. Unfortunately, it just did a real detriment to her character, and it made her death feel not quite as impactful as it should have been. So that's also another frustration with it. So yeah, I'm very up in the air. I really don't know how to feel about a lot of these writing decisions, and I don't know what to expect, which is kind of interesting and does have me wanting more and have me sitting here going, can I please just find out what's going to happen next? But no, I need to take a break. I need to step back from the show. So, looking back on the season as a whole, though, overall, I obviously had my issues. I obviously did not like a lot of this season. Was it as bad as last season? It's hard to tell. To be perfectly honest, I think I'm going to say this season was slightly worse, only because everything to do with Elizabeth for pretty much this entire season was insufferable. She was annoying, she was bratty, she was... I don't know all the words I could use to describe her, but essentially they took her character and they tried to turn her into this morally gray, sympathetic. No, you just don't understand. She's going through a lot. Yeah, she's doing a wrong thing, but she's doing it because she's so hurt. They tried to do this 50-50 thing, not sure whether we should root for her or, root against her. And ultimately, I don't feel like they justified that. They didn't justify it with the writing of the story, the writing with the characters. It felt very much like they were telling a story that I was not seeing. So a lot of that just pervaded throughout the entire season, and even until the end, until basically the second to last episode, she was still being insufferable. She was still being that obnoxious, arrogant, I know better than you, I'm right, you're wrong, that character, all the way until the second to last episode. And that's just not entertaining. And again, she's one of the 2 main characters, in my opinion. For you to have one of your main characters do that, it's not going to be something that a lot of the people who enjoy your show are going to enjoy. So I think because of that, this season just narrowly edges out season 7 for being the worst season ever. Only because season 7 did have some intrigue, and some of the first half of the season I thought was pretty good. Second half of the season was probably the worst half of a season in the entire show. But the overarching story, the character decisions, the just overall plot for this season, it felt not fun. It felt like we were sitting here going, we're being told this one interesting story about Reddington taking on Neville Townsend and what is going to happen when the Townsend directive comes after him and all of that stuff. That was a very interesting story and one I wanted to get more of. But then on the other side, they're trying to feed us this other story of Liz fighting against Red because of all the lies he told her and the awful thing he did and all of this stuff. And it's like I'm much more invested in this one, and it felt like they were taking too often to essentially feed us this other story that wasn't as good, was not as well written, and definitely didn't connect with. So unfortunately, because of that, it kind of tainted the entire season for me. There were good points, there were enjoyable points, there were rough points. All in all, it was kind of average. And for this show, that is the worst season because most of these seasons have not been that average. They've been, enjoyable. They've been fun. They've been well written. So I'm pretty disappointed. I hope seasons 9 and 10. Hope they can get it back on track. Again, I don't really know what to expect since it feels like the point of the show is now dead. But I have to hope that they at least came in with an idea of what they were doing. I really do wonder if season 8, if season 8 was the final one, would they have just had Liz kill off Reddington and have her take his spot and all of that? Because that's one of the things that I've always been curious about with this show is what did they have written from the beginning? Because nobody knows how long your show is going to last. So you have to have kind of an idea of when to stop, and if you're going to get canceled or if you're not going to get renewed for another season, you have to find a way to say, all right, well, here's the final thing we'll do. Here's where it's all going to wrap up. So if we have to end it this season, well, here's how we do it. So I don't know if the show writers or if the producers, if any of them have talked about what the end game was at the beginning. But if they have, I mean, obviously I don't want to know right now because it might spoil the final 2 seasons. But I would like to know if they've talked about how much of what's happening right now, with Liz, with Reddington, all of this, how much of this was planned at the beginning and how much of this was them just sort of writing to keep the show going. Essentially, oh, we got another season, well, let's extend it a little bit more. We got another one, all right, well, let's extend it a bit more. Because if it's the second one, I will say I'm impressed that they managed to keep it going this long, writing like that. But if it's the first one, it's a little frustrating that these past 2 seasons have gotten a little bit more murky, since it feels like they should already know what destination they're headed to. So, but anyways, all that being said, that's it for me. What are your thoughts? What did you think of these final 2 episodes? What did you think of this season as a whole? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Blacklist reviews, and I'll see you guys whenever I return to it. Peace out.